In 1660, a servant confessed to murder. He named his accomplices. He described the crime in detail. He showed investigators where the body had been disposed of. There was just one problem. There was no body. Investigators searched the location he described. They found a few bloodied items of clothing, but no remains. No proof of death. They executed him anyway. They executed his mother and his brother too. And then, 2 years after 3 people had been hanged for his murder, the dead man walked back into his village, alive, with a story so extraordinary that nobody knew whether to believe him. This is CrimeArchive. Tonight we are opening the file on the Campden Wonder, the strangest unsolved case in English history. August 16th, 1660. Chipping Campden, Gloucestershire, England. William Harrison was a 70-year-old steward, essentially an estate manager, working for the wealthy Viscountess Campden. He was responsible for collecting rents from tenants across the local area. On that August evening, Harrison set out on foot to collect rents from a nearby village called Charingworth, a journey of a few miles across open countryside. He never came home. His wife waited. By nightfall, she was worried enough to send their servant, a man named John Perry, to go out and look for him. Perry came back without Harrison. He claimed he had searched and found nothing. The following morning, Harrison's son Thomas went out looking himself. On the road between Chipping Campden and Charingworth, he made a discovery: a hat, a comb, and a bloodied collar band, all belonging to William Harrison. But no William Harrison. No signs of a struggle, no witnesses, no trail leading anywhere. William Harrison had simply vanished. With no body and no clear evidence of what had happened, suspicion quickly fell on John Perry, the servant who had gone out looking for Harrison and come back empty-handed. Perry was brought before a local magistrate and questioned. And here is where the case takes its first extraordinary turn. John Perry confessed. Not only did he confess, he implicated his own mother Joan Perry and his brother Richard Perry in the crime. He claimed the 3 of them had planned to rob William Harrison on his way back from collecting rents, that they had attacked him on the road, that Harrison had died during the attack, and that they had disposed of the body. The magistrate pressed him for details. Perry provided them. He described where the body had been hidden. Investigators went to search the location. They found nothing. No body, no remains. Nothing that confirmed a murder had taken place beyond the bloodied clothing already found on the road. Joan and Richard Perry immediately denied everything. They said John was lying. They said they had done nothing. They said their own brother and son had invented the entire confession. But here is the detail that should stop you completely. John Perry then did something almost impossible to explain. He retracted his confession. He said he had made the whole thing up, that he didn't know why, that no murder had taken place, and that he had no explanation for why he had confessed to a crime that, as far as anyone could prove, had never happened. The authorities didn't believe him, despite having no body, despite having a confession that had been retracted, despite the fact that the victim had simply disappeared rather than been proven dead. Joan Perry, Richard Perry, and John Perry were tried for the murder of William Harrison. All 3 maintained their innocence at trial. Joan and Richard Perry had never confessed at all. John Perry's only confession had been withdrawn and could not be explained even by the man who had made it. It made no difference. All 3 were convicted, and in 1661, all 3 were executed. Joan Perry was hanged first, the court having decided she was a witch who had bewitched her own son into making a false confession. Richard Perry was hanged alongside her, still protesting his innocence. John Perry was hanged last, watching his mother and brother die before him. At no point during any of the executions did any of them provide a clear or consistent account of what had actually happened to William Harrison, because the most likely explanation, the one that nobody at the time was willing to consider, was that nothing had happened to William Harrison at all. In 1662, 1 year after the executions, William Harrison walked back into Chipping Campden. He was alive. He was elderly and weakened, but coherent. And he had a story. He claimed that on the night of his disappearance, he had been attacked on the road by 3 men on horseback. They had overpowered him, bundled him onto a horse, and transported him, over a period of weeks, to the coast. From the coast, he had been taken by ship. And eventually he had been sold into slavery in the Ottoman Empire, in what is now Turkey. He said he had spent years working for a Turkish master, who had eventually died, and that after his master's death he had found passage on a ship, made his way back to Europe, and finally returned to England. It was an extraordinary account, and it explained absolutely nothing. Harrison's story raised more questions than it answered. Why had 3 people been hanged for a murder that clearly hadn't taken place, and yet Harrison showed no apparent distress about their deaths? If he had been kidnapped and taken to Turkey, where was he on the night Perry went looking for him? Why had Perry confessed to a murder at all? And why had Perry's confession been so detailed and so specific, if he had invented it entirely? 3 theories have been debated by historians for over 350 years. Theory 1. Harrison was telling the truth. He was genuinely kidnapped, taken overseas, and enslaved. The Perry confession was either a delusional episode, a misunderstanding, or an attempt by John Perry to cover something else entirely, perhaps a robbery that had gone wrong, but hadn't resulted in death. Under this theory, John Perry knew something about that night, but not everything, and his confused account spiraled into a conviction that destroyed his entire family. Theory 2. Harrison was lying. He had reasons to disappear that he never disclosed. A secret debt, a secret life, a relationship he needed to escape from. He staged his own disappearance and returned only when he felt it was safe to do so, by which point 3 people had been executed in his name. His Turkey story was an invention designed to cover 2 years he couldn't otherwise account for. Theory 3. Something else entirely. Some historians have suggested that Harrison and Perry were connected in ways the historical record doesn't show, that the bloodied clothing on the road was planted, that the confession was coerced or fabricated under pressure, and that the real story, whatever it was buried alongside the 3 people who might have known parts of it. No official investigation was ever launched into why 3 innocent people had been executed. No one was held accountable for the wrongful convictions. William Harrison lived out the rest of his days in Chipping Campden. He never changed his story. And Joan Perry, Richard Perry, and John Perry, hanged for a murder that never happened, received no justice, no exoneration, and no explanation. Not then, not now. The Campden Wonder is one of the strangest cases in British legal history, not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. No murder was ever proven, no motive was ever established, no body was ever found, and yet 3 people died on a scaffold for a crime that the supposed victim survived to walk away from. Was William Harrison the victim of a conspiracy he never fully understood? Was he the architect of a disappearance that went further than he intended? Or did something happen on that road in August 1660 that none of the people involved ever told the truth about? 360 years later, the village of Chipping Campden still has no answer, and neither do we. What do you think really happened on that road in 1660? Was William Harrison telling the truth about Turkey? Was he hiding something? And what drove John Perry to confess to a murder that apparently never took place? Comment the word mysteries below and tell me what you think. I read every single one. And if cases like this pull you in, impossible confessions, wrongful executions, and stories that make no sense no matter how long you study them, subscribe to CrimeArchive, because we are only just getting started. CrimeArchive. Some files never close.